I'm so excited, building on a treehouse as freaking, damn it, Susan Strong. I couldn't think of her name for a second. Brain no work good, and my tummy, like I'm hungry, so my tummy is like making some very much like like eating pains, or it's like, or hunger pains. That's what it is, like where it's like, you know, you're so hungry that your body starts hurting. You're like, oh, I don't want to eat, but I know I have to. And then as soon as you take a bite, it's like, oh yeah. It's like torture too for my tummy because I keep smelling the delicious pizza, but have yet to put it in my mouth. It also could be my hernia acting up. Oh. I see your guy walking off. That's so cute. Ah. See a little character waddling off, and then you get to a certain point and you just disappear. Oh man, I am trembling McGee right now. Okay, I'm gonna get some food in me. Work on this here treehouse while I do it, because I already know as soon as I get like one bite of the salad in me, my body will be like, oh yeah, this is what I've been missing. Shaky, shaky, shaky. Damn it. Balsamic all over the top of it. Yes, yes, we're liking it. It's very moist. Very moist, very mindful. Dude, I can't unhear it now. Ever since you and my nephew were cackling over me sounding like the Joker stealing a pizza, I'm just like, dude, I totally laugh like the Joker. Like, what the fuck? I love the way that I found this out, though. It's a fun way. It's a good way. We've completed your area work. Thank you. Let's put some... Ooh, instead of music, I'm going to put on a podcast. Let's see. Do I have any new episodes? Ooh, yeah.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school.
I've been meaning to watch this. I came across this thing that's, it's As the Raven Dreams podcast. I love the fucking name. So rad.
This episode is brought to you by Stars. Lisa Tadeo's best-selling book
And
is
it
about
just has
to
different
become your
stories
favorite
like
new show. Based on
this
a true story,
one.
the new Stars original series, 3 Women, stars Shailene Woodley as Gia, a grieving and struggling writer who embarks on a cross-country road trip where she meets 3 women.
Nevermore, Storytime Paranormal Stories, Volume 1. And then the next one is True Horror Stories. Yeah, it's cool.
Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Nevermore Storytime. Today we have a fantastic collection of stories for your listening pleasure, but before we hop into that, I would like to hand it over to myself for a pre-recorded message. So, take it away, Raven. This story is 100% true. I swear it on my life.
Ooh.
I unfortunately cannot proclaim the experiences to be of supernatural origin, but I will tell you the story as it happened to me, so you can decide.
I love true stories.
My grandmother's house was built over what we believe to be a Native American burial ground on tribal land.
But yeah, I'd been meaning to start listening and I hadn't, so I feel like
part of Arizona,
perfect
as
timing.
well as numerous human skeletal remains that have been uncovered over the years from our backyard. There have been hundreds of strange occurrences in that house over the years that have been experienced by a good majority of my family, and as such, it's generally accepted without hesitation that the house is in fact
and
very
they're
haunted.
very short, so
Uncles,
like
cousins,
each episode is only like 15 minutes, 16 minutes, so it'll be a way of kind of gearing time without having to stare at a clock.
And would often experience a whole spectrum of different odd occurrences at all times of the day. Loud explosions that nobody else heard, feelings of being watched, white figures moving across windows late at night, loud footsteps on the roof that were often heard by everybody else in the house that, upon investigation, could not be explained. On and on and on. Being the natural skeptic / pessimist that I am, I would generally disregard these as my imagination or some other freak occurrence, such as an attempted burglary, magnetic interference, or maybe even auditory hallucinations. Bottom line, I always had an explanation, no matter how obvious it was that I really didn't. One evening, my uncle, cousin, and I were watching Silence of the Lambs in the living room when we heard what sounded like someone choking or suffering from some sort of asthmatic attack down the hall behind us. At first, I believe only myself and my cousin heard the noise as we both looked down the hallway to where my grandparents were sleeping, in order to identify the sound's source. After it ended, we turned back around in complete silence to continue watching the movie. The noise began again. My uncle decided to pause the movie this time, and we all stared down the empty hallway to my grandparents' room. Just as my uncle was about to eject himself from his seat to walk down the hallway and investigate the sound, it began to move toward us. The sounds of someone's panicked choking moved towards the living room, circled both couches, went into the dining room, finally ended in the kitchen.
Oh,
In total,
the sun is
the experience lasted
making
around 10
its way
minutes or so.
down.
We all sat there in complete silence.
Oh, I can
No one
almost see the
spoke
moon.
a word of what was happening, as there was really nothing we could say about it. At one point, I remember the sound coming from
The moon's coming up, yeah.
feet away from me, and I distinctly remember it sounding from about the height off the ground that a 5'6" to 5'8"
Oh, no.
had there been one there. I remember looking it up.
Do you want me to just,
current,
we could go through the night, because they can't get to me in the treehouse.
No animals, nothing. Absolutely nothing there. The odd part was that despite the recent death in our family, I had absolutely no recollection of ever hearing anyone in our family breathe like that. It sounded distinctly female and
Oh!
sound.
Oh my. I'm gonna
didn't feel chills. None of the typical ghost feeling stuff you read about in stories.
I'm gonna go towards the middle of the
Honestly, I
treehouse.
didn't even feel the least bit frightened about it
Oh,
for
I
whatever reason. I can only only assume it was because I was so convinced that it was some sort of
You're like
injury
down in the
that I
ground.
didn't even consider it to be a supernatural phenomenon.
Damn. Like,
Regardless of its exact origins, we all
I could,
heard and
yeah,
experienced
I
it that
totally.
night. Oddly enough, the significance of this event really didn't start to sink in until years later. I still reach out to those that were there that night to confirm that it actually did happen and that it wasn't some sort of
Whoa.
elaborate prank. The
Fuck
user
is that?
had a edit
Something
slash
bright off in
addendum
the
they wanted me
distance.
to add in here, so here that is. This
It's
story
weird.
is 10,000% true, and I often have to remind myself that it actually happened. This experience actually sent me into an intense period of extreme depression due to my views on the afterlife being totally flipped upside down. After I shared my experience with my grandmother years later, I found out that the wheezing sound we had heard that night had actually been experienced by other members of the family. One time in particular being accompanied by the apparition of an old woman staring at my uncle when he was a young man. I could literally write a book about all the odd experiences that took place in that house. For a short while after that night, the hauntings actually got worse. A few days later, a small group of us actually heard the sounds of Native American instruments being played in our front yard, sometime around 1 a.m., when there was obviously nobody there. A week later, I heard what sounded like sandals slapping against the floor right in front of me. The final
Kids love to sleep in your bed, man.
Was when a cousin of mine, who was at that point in the middle period of a 5-year prison sentence, called my grandmother to tell her about a dream she had about a fire that killed everyone in the house. A few hours later, there was a massive fire that burned a large chunk of our dining room up. I'm not really a big believer in
little fucking
BS,
kid.
so I just want to say this is absolutely true.
There's a zombie chasing after him.
So I don't really know much about the paranormal, but I do believe in it. Essentially, something lives in my house and watches me constantly. I can just feel it. This all started around a year ago when I visited my friend who lived in a supposed haunted road in Massachusetts, Dudley Road in Billerica. Some of my friends messed with some apparent witch graves in an old graveyard, which, like, why the hell would you even do that? I was not very pleased, to say the least. We also went into a field and may or may not have seen a ghost or apparition of somebody hanged. I can get into that more in a different story, since that's not the main focus, but it's just my theory as to why this is happening. Anyway, ever since then, I believe there's been something or someone in my house. It's never done harm, but its presence isn't very welcoming, to say the least. I can feel it during the day, but not as strong. But at night, I can feel someone staring into my soul. As soon as the sun sets, and especially when I'm alone, I get a pit in my stomach and feel instant terror. I've got 3 cats. When I go to sleep at night, they sleep on my bed with me. Except at random points in the night, they all wake up at the exact time, jolt up, and stare straight into the corner of my bedroom for a very long time. That corner always looks incredibly dark compared to the rest of the room, and it's always freaked me out. Sometimes when they wake up, they stare at something right next to my bed, right near my head. Coincidence or not, when I can feel this thing staring at me, it's either A, coming from the corner, or B, right next to my face. I don't know how I know it's there, but I do. I just know where it is whenever I feel it's looking at me. I would try to ignore this feeling and go to sleep anyway. However, I almost always wake up anywhere from like 1 to 3 in the morning. When I do wake up, there's a man who stands in that corner of my room and just stares into my soul. He doesn't move or speak, he just looks at me, and I look right back at him. He always looks different though. Sometimes he looks like a classic devil. Goat legs, horns, etc. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. Sometimes he looks like a creepy man in a pinstriped suit, but it's difficult to pinpoint his age. He looks old and wrinkly, but at the same time he looks young and youthful, if that makes any sense. Sometimes he wears casual clothes and a hat. All that I know is that we just stare at each other. The thing that really set me off was that a few times, without moving his body or lips, he spoke to me. Like I heard his voice in my head. I don't remember what he said, but I just listened intently. Once I saw him move from that corner to next to my bed, but he didn't walk or move his body as per usual. He was completely still and just sort of floated, but his legs still touched the ground. I'm not sure how to describe it. When that happened, I let out a little yelp and he just disappeared. The only problem with these encounters is that I have no idea if I'm awake or not. I don't know if it's a recurring dream. Every time I see him at night, it feels like I'm in a trance or like I'm hypnotized. I just feel incredibly tired. But I wake up beforehand and then go back to sleep, so that's why I'm confused. It's so real that I just believe it is. I've never experienced anything like this. I've had dreams where I wake up, like a dream within a dream, Inception kind of thing. This only happens at my house and nowhere else. The user added an edit after some of the other users left their comments. Here it is. So I've taken into account everything everyone has said. Thanks for that, by the way. I do have a salt lamp, and I put it in that corner. However, I was skeptical of the sleep paralysis thing since I've never had it before. At least I don't think. And I could totally move during these events. But now I'm certain it's more. A friend of mine who was there that night at the graveyard slept over at my house the other day. He just brought up a dream about someone.
Oh yeah, I was definitely hungry. My blood sugar was probably super low. I was like shaking and shit. I'm not shaking anymore. Oh man.
Looked at him the whole night. Now I'm starting to wonder if other people who were there that night ever see the same or similar things. Hey, this is Raven popping in here in the middle of these wonderful stories to say that I need to input a little bit of a sound clip about a certain sponsor. So that's gonna happen now. The title of this story is I am a respiratory therapist and I work nights in an emergency room. Hello. I've been working in this field for a few months now and I've seen some
Pretty sure that's not an ad, but I'm here for
so
it.
I figured I'd share something in hopes to clear my head. I work in a decently large hospital in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. I mostly do work on the emergency
I like
room,
the
but
voice.
I've also
Like
worked
I
on
had
other
came
floors of
across
the
it and I was like,
hospital.
ooh, this is
Just
a
the
nice
other night,
voice.
a
I was
patient
like,
came in around 4 in the
I was
morning.
like,
I work
guy,
nights.
girl, and I
It
was
was
like,
an 18-year-old
guy.
female who her
Like,
family found standing on the top of
it's
their
awesome.
shed in the middle of the night. And when her parents saw her and screamed, she fell and broke her femur. She came into the ER. I was told by her nurse to check in on her whenever she was settled in her room. So when I did, I was a little shocked that she was still in a daze and her leg was torn to shreds. I could see through the bandages. When I walked in, she just stared and didn't say a word. I was about to introduce myself when all of a sudden she lets out a scream. Not just any scream. It was a scream like an animal caught in a bear trap. After this, the nurses ran in and she started yelling out numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, but in a random order. After this, she passed out and went unresponsive. She was moved up to one of the basic care floors last time I checked. I have many more stories like this if anyone's interested. I just wanted to reach out and share my thoughts about it. So I don't really know much about the paranormal, but I do believe it. Essentially, something lives in my house and watches me constantly. I can just feel it. This all started around a year ago when I visited my friend who lived in a supposed haunted road in Massachusetts, Dudley Road in Billerica. Some of my friends messed with some apparent witch graves in an old graveyard. Like, why the hell would you even do that? I was not very pleased, to say the least. We also went into a field and may or may not have seen a ghost or apparition of somebody hanged. I can get into that more in a different story, since that's not the main focus, but it's just my theory as to why this is happening. Anyway, ever since then, I believe there's been something or someone in my house. It's never done harm, but its presence isn't very welcoming, to say the least. I can feel it during the day, but not as strong. But at night, I can feel someone staring into my soul.
Why is it repeating the same thing?
Sets, and especially when I'm alone, I get a pit in my stomach and feel instantly.
I just checked it. It's towards the end.
When I go to sleep at night, they sleep on my bed with me. Except at random points in the night, they all wake up at the exact time, jolt up, and stare straight into the corner of my bedroom for a very long time. That corner always looks incredibly dark compared to how I know it's there, but I can move or speak. He just age. He looks old. I heard his voice in my head. I don't remember what he said, but I just listened intently. Once I saw him move from that corner to next to my bed, but he didn't walk or move it or not. I don't know if it's a recurring dream. Every time I see him at night, it feels a dream within a dream and salt lamp, and I put it in a dream about.
It's literally the end of the episode, so that's wild.
With its thumb pointing upward. It looks like a hand. I think it's a hand. We're gonna pretend it's a hand. Click the little hand with its thumb going upward, if you enjoyed it. Also, there's like a little button that says subscribe. And this is magic. I promise you, this is absolute magic. If that button is red and says subscribe, if you click on that button,
dude, okay.
It will change.
Spotify, you tripping? Yeah. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, you know what? Let's just go with some good old murder, mystery, and makeup. Yeah.
Your free evaluation.
Okay. What the fuck? How do we make it
That's
stop?
GoTerraFirma.com. CCP
Oh my god.
173547.
In the dynamic
I was like, it's
world
still
of
doing
cars,
it!
and also like at the
Plug in a Hyundai EV and estimated 3 to 3 mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5
I was
SE.
digging it, but I'm just gonna stick to something I know. Because I'd like to focus on eating in Minecraft, not...
to get in,
There we
like,
go.
to dive into.
Some Bailey
I haven't
Sarian.
recommended the story for so long.
Also a
but I don't
soothing,
know why
awesome
I
voice.
so want to like really dive into it. But
And we know what she looks like,
and
so,
you guys are
well,
sick. This story
not to
is
assume that you do,
sick.
but...
I don't know what is going on with Australia, but sometimes, you guys, you got some questionable people living down
Hello.
there. That's all I'm going to say. Today's
person.
story is like one of the most difficult cases to solve.
Do I know you?
History, but like one of the most brutal.
Because usually when people say they love me to the moon and back,
so
like,
stories. It's like, how could people...
I usually would know them.
You guys, jeez. Okay, the story is known as like the Snowtown murders, or the bodies in the barrels murder. Because there's so multiple bodies.
How many little accounts do you have? You're so funny. I love you to the moon and back too, buddy.
Warning. This one's really graphic. Torture, dismemberment.
I was so confused.
Sexual assault, white supremacy, violence against LGBTQIA plus community,
Hi.
cannibalism.
Yeah. I like in game. Oh, nice. The sun is. Oh my God, Amber, where is the village? Oh my God, you got lost in the forest. Okay. Oh no. Oh, that's not the right way. Oh no. Okay. Oh no. Yeah.
And it's safe to say that Elizabeth has had
I just I'm lost in the forest right now. Oh, I see the tops of the village. Okay.
She had been treated poorly.
Whoo. Yeah. Okay.
Taking care of 8 kids. Hello. We can all agree that is a lot. And then
Whew,
she had
that scared me.
several different fathers.
Okay, I am now at the treehouse. I see the moon. I'm up in the treehouse. I'm in my bed. Oh my goodness. There's too much going on. That there is bad moments. Yeah, I'm glad. I was literally talking with my best duder about how awesome the game was. Getting to play trios with you. That was super fun. And now that I know that this is one of your accounts, I will remember.
So, with that being said, it was really strange when Elizabeth's brother, he received an unexpected guest, I guess. Elizabeth's kids, they end up showing up on his doorstep on November 22nd, 1998, and he tells them that their mom was missing. Elizabeth's husband, his name Mark, he comes to pick them up and tells his brother-in-law that Elizabeth, she wasn't missing, that she had left him.
I love Bailey Sarian's voice.
Behind the kids, and then she had taken out like all of the money from their shared bank account. And then he goes on to say that she had run off with, quote, one of her boyfriends. Now, to Elizabeth's brother, he was like, I don't know. This doesn't seem right, you know? So he waits a little bit of time, the brother, and then when 3 days go by, that's when he decides to go to police and file a missing persons report, which was like a good idea because one of Elizabeth's relatives, a nephew named Fred, now Elizabeth's nephew, Fred, had also mysteriously disappeared like a few months before. Now, they didn't know what was going on. They knew it was like very strange circumstances, but like other than that, no one had heard from Fred. No one had seen him. But Fred was like still withdrawing money from his welfare account. So it was weird. Like they're putting it together. You got it? Great. Police take this and they continue kind of snooping around. They end up going to Elizabeth's house, and at the house, that's where they find like her purse, her credit card, stuff that it seems like you would take with you if you ran away, especially with like a new man and stuff. Maybe you would take your card and purse and stuff, you know? So they're like, that's weird. Weird. So 6 more months go by, and there still has not been a trace of her. So police follow up on the lead that they have. And this lead is Elizabeth's neighbor had reported seeing a man stuffing like big garbage bags into a Toyota Land Cruiser. And he's like, I'd never seen that Toyota Land Cruiser before. ever. You know, so he noted that. And then he said that the truck of this Land Cruiser was like completely stuffed full, and the man was struggling to like jam and force the rest of these garbage bags into the back of the vehicle. So police are like, yep, got it, great. They trace the truck to the house of a man named Simon. Simon tells the police like it actually wasn't his car, it was one of his friends. And first, you just want to roll your eyes like, blah, 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 blah. Sure, buddy. But really, this was true. The truck, or the car, it didn't belong to him. He was actually helping two of his friends move a bunch of blue barrels, which he noted were full of some very strong smelling chemicals, out to an old bank vault in like a small farming community called Snowtown. And that was it. Like, that was the key to this investigation. On March 20th, 1999, Simon takes investigators down to Snowtown. And Snowtown was described as being like this really small area where several farming communities had lived, but like other than that, I guess there wasn't too much going on, you know? It was said to be very like rural. I hate that word, but you know, rural. Anyways, it was that, and also like at the time they didn't really have a large population. That was really all that was said about it. It was like a sleepy town. When I looked it up though, it just kind of looked sketchy, you know? Well, based off this story, I think maybe that's safe to say. I don't know if there's snow either. I forgot to look that up. Anywho, detectives follow Simon into the old bank vault, and once they open that up, they're immediately hit with that like, you know, that smell of decomposing bodies, you know, but that's what they smell. You hear it's a very distinct smell.
Yeah, I would not know.
Everything
I'm very glad to say that I do not know what
everything.
a rotting body would smell like.
You have to subscribe to a whole new streaming app just to watch this one movie, and then of course,
You know, it'd be horrible as if
cancel it, and then you're
I
stuck
came
paying
across one and I was like,
$17.99
oh my god, I have smelled that
every
before,
month.
but hadn't seen it.
Well, that was me before I started using Rocket
Right?
Money.
Means that
Now
you
I don't
smelled
need
it,
to
but you
remember
didn't
that
see it.
subscription
Ugh.
because they remember.
So I hope to never find out what
Money is a personal finance
death
app that helps
smells
find
like.
and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. The app shows you all of your subscriptions in one place. That way you can see like what you use, what you should have canceled months ago, where your money's going, you know? You can even use Rocket Money to set your own personalized custom budget. Then you can compare this month's spending to last month and make sure that you're on the right financial track. There's also a goals feature, which automatically saves money for you. So, you know, you don't even have to think about it. Rocket Money will also let you know if one of your monthly bills increases. My favorite part is that they deal with customer service, so I don't have to. Now I'm saving money all the time, thanks to Rocket Money. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year using all of the app's features. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/makeup. That's rocketmoney.com/makeup. rocketmoney.com/makeup.
This salad is so good.
So detectives, they end up like surveying the scene, and the vault ended up being littered with like these 6 giant blue barrels, and they were all filled with massive amounts of acid.
Oh,
and
shit.
inside the acid in the barrel were bodies, and 8 bodies in total, and all of them were like in this liquid, decomposing in this chemical. Which, side note, whoever had put the bodies in the chemicals, they had used the wrong chemical, so it didn't dissolve the body. I think it's sulfuric acid dissolves bodies. They didn't use that. They like mixed it up. So the bodies were actually kind of preserving themselves, which was good for investigators, but just
Holy shit.
generally.
A person thinks they're disintegrating the body and actually preserves it.
Yeah. So around the
Oh my
barrels, there
god.
were like a bunch of weapons that they found. So they found like makeshift tools like knives. There was a bloodstained saw. Oh my god. Like a shotgun, rope, electric rods, I guess, that were being used to like shock. And to investigators, they're like, holy Snowtown vault. So that's what they know. And they're like, okay, great. So Simon, like, who are these friends, right? Because they're obviously gonna know something. And finish, this is when the web of what the hell is going on really starts to just go out of control. Like, what? Because I was just like, what is going on? What is going on? So the friends were 33-year-old John Bunting and then 27-year-old Robert Wagner. So let's start with John Bunting. John was born in September 1966 in Anala. I tried to look this
Kid
up.
just running around.
Anala, which is like a suburb of Brisbane, and Anala is said to be another one of those Australian towns that was like kind of built out of desperation. At the time, there was like this huge need for housing after World War II. So in Australia, they just were like cranking out these suburbs. Okay. So
holy
what I'm
shit!
getting at
I have
is by
not
the
seen
time
a
that
pizza
John
this
was
big
born,
in a very long time.
Brisbane was still
Whoa!
very new. It was like 14 years old. Also, it was said to be very small. Like, it wasn't filled with the wealthiest people, but it wasn't like the worst place to grow up. It's developed a lot since then, but back in the 60s and the 70s, it again kind of like sounds like there wasn't really anything to do. John was an only child, and it was said like he was much closer to his father than he was his mother. But like not a lot is said about his father really.
Damn it,
so
it's so
I don't
shaky.
even know who the freak knows. But what we do know is that John's mom was a lot. It was said she was very like domineering, but most of all she was extremely neat. Being neat is fine, you know, but she was neat in a very like toxic, controlling type of way. John said that like she kept the house in pristine condition to the point where he really felt like he couldn't like sit anywhere, you know? He couldn't really live in it. You know, like imagining like the plastic on the sofas situation and like the room you never go in, but that's the whole house, which sucks. It was said that John was
That would suck.
he didn't do too well in school, and this upset his mother very much. But John, he did have like deep
Big ass
fascination
mushrooms
with
on this one.
nature.
I love
Like,
mushrooms.
he really loved experimenting with chemicals as a kid. Like being a kid in the 1970s in Australia just kind of seemed wild because he just like was playing with chemicals. I don't know. Like John's chemical fascination, it started off innocent. It was said, like he used it mainly to develop photographs, but then he moved on from that pretty quickly. And he would use different chemicals to like drown insects and use them on different insects to like see what happened to them. Like little
I feel bad for these people who are VIPs on the site, but they're like, they're long distance.
What happens if I use chlorine? What happens if I use this acid? He
Like,
wanted to know.
where the hell is San Rafael, California? I don't even fucking know.
Hobbies. Okay. But things
Oh my God.
they started to take a nosedive.
The
for John.
sun, I think, is going
17
down.
years old. Everyone in the story has a really bad life. It's really awful. It's not funny, but you know, how you get it. I've been saying that a lot.
Must clean.
You get it. So
Must clean hands.
hanging out at his friend's
Pick up
house
controller.
in the afternoon.
Oh my God. No. No. Go up the tree. Go up the tree. Jump. Jump. Oh my God. Jump. Jump, 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 jump. Go, go, go. No! Oh, no! Honey! No!
Had this really horrible secret that John was about to come face to face with.
I'll just clean the controller later. I'll lick the buttons if I have to.
When they're hanging out,
Oh my God.
burst into the room where they're
Oh my God.
both of the 8-year-old boys out, like down into the bedroom, and holds them down.
Excuse me.
And then rapes them.
God
After
damn,
he's
that
done,
wasn't even.
the teenager ends up calling
But,
his
like,
friend.
this guy actually puts a
Hey,
message
I've got
that, you know,
8-year-olds here,
is like,
and I warmed them up. I'm not kidding.
is I,
You wanna
but
talk what? Huh?
it's like,
So,
you're
these
in
sicko friends, these sick
California,
folks,
like,
come over and they torture John and his
literally,
his friend
like,
more.
it says on my first date, I'd like to meet in person, not over the phone. It's like, bro, you're in California, like,
Hours and hours. Like, this brother is sick, and the friends are too, obviously. But like, it's extreme. So this is happening. And then I guess the father of the house comes home. He sees what's going on and ends up like screaming.
because, like, I saw his profile, and,
Get
like,
out,
you know, he's not bad looking, you know,
untie
but it's like,
John,
you're in California.
and then tell John
But, you know,
to go to the doctors. And that was it.
like,
He
I
did.
matched with a person that's in Seattle, You know, but I know where Seattle's at, so I know the distance. Like, I'm gonna have to Google this place.
And never talk about it again, which is sad, but
I'll do that later, because he just messaged me. If I respond to that, he's gonna keep responding back, and I am not trying.
He doesn't go to the doctor. I mean, he's 8.
Oh, welcome back to Club Kottontale, and
he goes home.
welcome back from working. Hopefully work was okay.
When he walked into the house, his mom is angry and slaps him across the face. I was like, what? Huh? John's mom was mad because he had missed tea time. I know. I was like, oh god. I mean, jeez, right? Jeez. So, I mean, needless to say, you know, like, John doesn't feel like he can trust anybody, really.
Yeah, eat that meat.
I don't even want to talk to you about what just happened. I think it's safe to say, like, he fully didn't understand what happened to him either. But either way, it's, like, awful, and he ends up just keeping it a secret. So I guess these kids who had done all of this to John, these sickos continued to, like, bully him outside, just outside in life. Like, whenever they saw John, they would, I don't know, just harass him, verbally assault him, call him names, and John just said nothing. So as time goes on, I mean, John is obviously angry, and then he kind of, like, internalizes that, and then it comes up in, like, different ways, you know? So we know that John was fascinated with chemicals, but now he was kind of growing a fascination with weapons and, like, killing animals and stuff. I know, I'm sorry. He would torture and kill neighborhood animals, and, like, he just liked it. I don't know what else to say, like, that's what he said, he just liked it. Like, it's gross, I know. And then John also wanted his own, like, little secret, like, lair or something, you know? So he and his friend, they ended up building, like, this huge tunnel underneath of their house. Dude, this kid went off. Like, he put in work. It was, like, 5 feet tall and over 16 feet long. Okay, and then it was reinforced with bricks and wood.
Wait, what?
Building shit. I was like, wow, okay. He should have done that.
Whose are you playing with?
He built that because he wanted his own little place to have, like, secrets and stuff and be all weird, you know? I feel like I've been blending forever. I should move on because I don't know if I want to act lit. Like, I like this eye.
I'm playing with the meat suit.
It's like, yeah. So John is small for his age, and at 13, he ends up befriending a guy named Benny. So John is 13, and this guy Benny is in his 40s. I know. Side-eye. There's, like, no information on how they met, so it's unclear. Could be something as simple as, like, them seeing each other or something, but, yeah, they're friends in 1979.
Now, I can function.
So the two of them, like, form a quick bond.
I was really
Benny
hungry,
had
damn.
a really tough childhood as well. He was severely abused growing up, especially by his father, and he would tell John that he would get, like, beaten up all the time.
Dude, these kids are wild.
Bonded. I guess, like, Benny's dad, as punishment.
I'm just watching this little villager kid run all around. It's like, dude.
But look, Benny and John,
where is your parents?
Best friends. But it's more like Benny becomes like a father figure and like a protector for John. Once Benny was in the picture,
A meat suit is a human?
Shitheads that were bugging John, they finally left him alone because he had like this bodyguard, Benny. Benny at some point had introduced John to his favorite hobby. His favorite hobby was finding.
Oh my god, I'm trying not to maniacally laugh like Joker.
I know, it was a super big jump. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. Yeah, Benny, this is Benny's favorite hobby.
God damn, that's so good. Okay, let's close this bitch up.
So it wasn't like the local police department's like most wanted list, you know? It was literally people that
Open this, because now I'm going to eat my Parmesan bites, but with a fork.
Just based off his instincts.
So I don't have to, you know, worry about my hands getting the controller dirty, you know?
Okay, so Benny and John, they would actually work together.
But
Yeah,
I'm going to try to,
so John would like wait on a street corner for a man to walk by.
not 100% do a traditional build like they do, but I want to try to emulate it a little bit, you know? So I'm going to go and measure, make sure that I've put my logs as high as they put it and stuff like that. And I see that some of them, like when it's a 2-story, they put a sideways log to separate the two ways. Whereas, like, I wouldn't necessarily have done that. But aesthetically, it looks way better than what I would have done.
So they had 0 they were doing the Lord's work or something. So Benny and John, they end up staying friends, like, for most of John's teenage years. I mean, that's really his best friend during that time. I don't know if they had, like, something
I know
else
I'm out
going
and
on.
do
There
it
was
for ya.
something said, do you know what I'm saying? Because Benny was much older, and, you know? So, nothing was said, so I don't know. But during this time, it's like Benny really instilled a lot of hate, more hate into John. Because Benny would, like, lecture him about how to find pedophiles and stuff, and what to look out for. So Benny's kind of, like, putting all of his garbage beliefs into John, and that's when John starts to associate being gay with being a pedophile, which unfortunately
Whose is that?
very tragic
Like,
thing, and is
the bad.
especially in the 80s, homophobia was,
Whose are?
you know,
Like,
basically acceptable in a lot of
oh.
mainstream culture. Sadly, it got like a
Like, I mess up sometimes, you know. Van is one that always... Van and then. Ugh.
That is not the case. So meanwhile, Benny and John,
Like, I don't even talk in proper English, like, let alone write it always.
graduated from luring men into a dark alley to now
But,
just,
like, sometimes I want to put
you
UR, and I'll just, it puts your without the RE, and I'm like, excuse me, that's the wrong one.
Benny and John, they would poop on the beds of these victims, and then they would smear homophobic slurs on the walls with said poop.
Oh, damn.
Like, okay, that's different.
That's right, the
different.
controller.
I won't go into what he did with the pets because that
I was like, why is my finger dirty? Because the controller still has a little schmutz on it.
Oh, I wasn't really. It wasn't supposed to be kind of funny. Their reign of
I
terror
know I'm
continues
not
until like
into
John
it for
turns
ya.
18.
Oh, shit.
And this is when Benny just dies suddenly of throat cancer. Like, it came out of nowhere. And this left John completely devastated. And it had a really, but it had a major effect on him because this was his father figure and, like, his protector.
I'll look and see.
People
The
put
house.
together in strangers' beds.
How?
That seems to really bond people. So losing him was devastating. This was really hard on John.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't know
4
how
of
to really
them.
cope.
Yeah.
So at the age of 19, he decides, like, new chapter, new him.
Oh,
You know, he
yeah.
decides to just completely pick up everything,
Oh,
uproots his
bro.
life, and then moves
Sup?
200 miles away to Adelaide,
Whoa.
Australia.
Whoa.
Like, this is a
What a
start.
cool
Scratch.
little fucking
Me.
building this is.
Summer is ending, and if you're
It,
anything
like,
like me,
it has a
starts to
water
stock up
walkway,
on fall
and there's
essentials.
a
First up,
crafting
shopping for cozy sweaters
table and a
candles.
barrel
And luckily,
that you can put
if
shit
you're really
in.
stressed about the cost,
What?
to Ibotta. If you don't know,
What?
Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash.
You can put shit in barrels?
You can earn on hundreds of items from
Ew,
everyday,
this is
like
so
groceries
cool.
and, like, to the more fun stuff like, you know, beauty supplies.
This, like,
Inflation right
dude,
now is
and it's not fully complete. We
crazy.
should
Oh my gosh,
complete
which
your...
is making shopping just way less fun. With Ibotta, you save no matter what you're purchasing. Actually, the average Ibotta user earns back $256 per year. And that's enough to cover a shopping trip. There are other apps out there that give you points that don't really amount to much. But with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw straight to your
Yeah,
bank
see?
account.
Yeah, buddy?
You can even
I
redeem
swear
your
the
savings
villagers, like, they
with
half build a bunch
all
of
you do is
shit,
add offers in
and
the app,
they
upload your
just,
receipt,
like,
and just like that, the money is yours.
make you figure
you
it
can save on
out.
over 2,400 brands and shop
Like,
at
you gotta
over
add
1,000
this, like,
retailers,
homeboy was
including
straight,
your
like,
favorite
stuck in
grocery
the
stores,
building, like,
Lowe's,
not,
Macy's,
like,
Sephora, Best
this
Buy,
is so
and
cool. It
there's so
has
much more.
water
It's
in
time you join
here.
the over 50 million users
Dude.
who use Ibotta to earn cash back every
So this
time
little
you shop.
house
Right now,
that's, like,
Ibotta
right
is
by the
offering our
treehouse
listeners $5
that's surrounded
just for
by
trying
water, it has
Ibotta
2
by
fucking
using the
doors
code
and a
MAKEUP.
little moat around it,
Register.
but it
Just
didn't
go
have
to
a
the App
completed
Store
walkway,
or
and
Play
now it does
Store
because of
and
me, and the
download
sun
the
is
free
fucking
Ibotta
going
app to start earning
down.
cash back and use code MAKEUP. That's Ibotta.
Okay, oh, get in the tree, Amber.
In the
God damn it,
Google Play
okay.
or App Store, and then use code MAKEUP. So John is now making
There
like
are
a new
monsters nearby.
himself.
Oh my god!
13 years old. He quickly gets a girlfriend. This girlfriend is 14
Fucking
years
spider in my tree.
I know.
He's dead.
Very ironic
Oh my god.
pedophiles. I guess in Australia the age of consent is 14,
Bro.
or was 14. I hope the answer is was
I don't even
14,
know how.
but I forgot to double check on
What
that
the
one, you know?
what
That's a
the-
little young, you guys, but
what the-
okay. John also gets a job bagging meat
This
for
bitch
the
ass
South Australian
fucking
meat
spider fucked up my
operation.
tree.
It's like, you know, a big boy job, and he would brag to like
What the
coworkers about how
what
much
the
he loved slaughtering
There had to been a
animals.
creeper.
And honestly, it was like
Part of
a
the
good
tree
job
is
for him. It kept his hands
fucked
busy. At
up.
least he wasn't killing animals out on the street and stuff. You know, like he should have stuck with it. But he starts to get weird. He starts to get really paranoid. He's living in
What the
a new city,
fuck?
new life. He doesn't have Benny, and he doesn't
Okay.
have like, what would you call it, like a mature
What
figure
the
in his
fuck?
life, like that
Just like,
protection or safety.
man,
Instead,
a
he was
bunch
feeling,
of leaves,
vulnerable
like,
and
dude, what the
paranoid.
fuck? No.
So he builds up like this arsenal of
Okay.
guns, poisons,
Oh my
knives,
god,
and he even
no.
gets a blowtorch, which I was like,
Okay.
okay, wow,
Okay. Let's
Australia's
see.
wild.
And replace.
Woo. I guess the
Some logs.
blowtorch was for a purpose because he was gonna sign up for welding class, or like he wanted to get into welding. So let's
Oh,
talk
dang
about it. Australia had a lot of demand for welders at this time, and if you got into it, they were promised like good money. It was like a career people were getting into. So John decides to take classes at like a local trade school so he can get into it, and this ends up like changing his life because this is where he would meet two of his new best friends, Robert Wagner and Mark
Have
Hayden.
to alter it a
let's
little
start with
bit,
Robert
but
Wagner.
it's still
same
okay,
shit,
but
man.
it definitely
Troubled childhood.
was a
Horrible
creeper.
home life. He
100%.
also had learning disabilities and sadly never like learned to read or write. So by the time he meets John in the welding class, he is a 15-year-old who had like run away from home.
Trying
And at the
to
time he was living with his much
replace
older
portion of the
girlfriend,
tree
Vanessa,
that got
he had met when he was 13. Yeah,
destroyed because I don't know what will happen
Vanessa,
if the
get this,
trunk isn't
Vanessa
completed.
is a convicted
So
child molester.
I'm just trying
Vanessa went to
to
prison in 1980 for
fill
sexually
that
assaulting
in.
two 12-year-old boys.
Okay,
Now to make things more
got
complicated,
there.
Vanessa was a trans woman.
Okay,
Now I know,
see.
again, we're old enough to separate the two.
I could probably
Vanessa does not represent all
leave
trans
that
women and
like
equal
that.
loop,
Okay,
right?
where'd that?
Great, we're grown. Cool. You could feel bad for Robert because he was definitely a
'Cause I
victim
feel
to
like
this woman. But
with one little bit
Robert
of
was
notch
also, like,
out
a
of it,
raging white
like it's missing
supremacist.
two.
And
I
it's
feel like it
this
should
woman,
be
Vanessa was having
possibly
such
okay.
inappropriate relationships with this young boy. Like, I was like, where are the parents?
Okay, there
Where
we
are
go.
the parents?
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Where is the
Nowhere to be
parents?
found. But
All right.
part
Yeah,
of a
it
white
just
supremacist group called National Action.
I took away the
ended up
like.
getting kicked out
So there was
because he said he
two.
radical.
There was two.
So, shit, you know. On top of that, this kid, he absolutely worked.
Oh, that's probably what hurt me.
Like, at one
It
point,
was
he
a
wanted to
creeper,
swap
and then
the
I turned around and I saw the spider. Oh.
dumbass, you know. But that was something like.
But there was
John
two
bonded
branches,
over because John was
and I had
also,
planned on like using the other side as like a staircase, but
like, dude, you like
it's
Hitler?
okay, you know.
I
That's
like
how
Hitler.
Minecraft survival is. You just gotta go with the punches. So
they had a long
it
comment
still
again.
has a bottom tree,
John now comes
and it
full
has the
circle
top
because
portion.
it's kind of like he's the Benny in this relationship with 15.
When I eventually find a jungle and I get some shears,
You know,
I
the things
can,
go
you
way
know,
farther than pooping
upgrade
on a wall,
and
let me tell you.
add it,
So,
but
another guy
this way I
that
can
was in
just
the welding
complete the
class with
flooring.
Robert and John was
Just
this
look at the
guy,
positive
Mark
because that
Hayden.
fucking
So
sucked
Mark
otherwise.
is older, he was 28 years
Ooh,
old,
you know what?
and
I think
it's
I
not
might put
funny,
a
it's just
glass
like he had
floor
a
in.
very tough upbringing. They've all been
Like
through
not on
some
all of
serious
it, but
shit.
just
His
like a
mom had
portion.
suffered from schizophrenia and had a lasting impact on him. But instead of acting out, it seems like Mark was more like he internalized it because like he was apparently pretty passive, mild-mannered, and he preferred to like be quiet in the zone and like tinker with cars. So he had a truck, a Land Cruiser that he always loved to tinker on, and like this is something that he and John would bond over. Like both of them like to kind of tinker around on the vehicles. So they would take the Land Cruiser out to a place called Lower Light, and I guess this area was like there were salt flats and I learned something new. Like, salt flats are great for racing cars because you can accelerate way easier on the surface. Yeah, I was like, okay, facts. But it's also like a good place to abandon a car. I guess in this area there wasn't like a lot of police activity out there. So like a lot of people just leave their cars, just dump their cars in lower lights. Now John and Mark, they loved this. This was an opportunity for them because they would go there and like strip the abandoned cars for sellable parts. And they would make money off of it.
Alright, cool.
So John now has his
Cool. Hi,
but
Cal.
the one thing he
Oh,
really
that's some
can't
wild ass shit,
stand
huh?
is Robert's girlfriend, Vanessa. He can't
Just a little
stand
creeper.
her. And
Everything's good.
remember with John's background, like he didn't like
Could have been way
pedophiles,
worse.
and she was
Like,
a
let's
convicted
be honest.
pedophiles. And plus, she was dating like his teenage friend. So, and then he found out that she was trans. So, look, John did not like Vanessa. Okay, and he let it be known. It was said that Vanessa and Robert had like a really rocky relationship, that they would beat each other up, like get into pretty gnarly fights, screaming, kicking, punching. But at the end of the day, I'm like, dude, he's still a kid, that Robert guy. Like, he was still a kid. So, because it said both of them were abusive. Well, he could be abusive too, but still, you get it. It's just like, holy fuck. Anyways, but Robert was stuck. I mean, he wasn't gonna leave Vanessa, so John just had to deal with it. But you know, he's stewing. So things get messy. Let's say that. Vanessa and Robert, I guess they had like an open relationship or something, because in 1992, Vanessa starts sleeping with this man named Cuntent. Cuntent, he was 20 years old, and he identified as a gay man. And he was over at Vanessa and Robert's place, like, pretty often. Also, John definitely knew him, and, of course, like, hated his guts. In his sick mind, John believed that because
Okay, don't
Clinton
venture too
was
off
gay
now,
and in
Amber.
Vanessa's
Got
circle,
freaking lost
that
in this
most
forest the
likely
last time.
he was a pedophile. This is what he believes.
Whew, I don't want to get lost in the forest.
Instincts like kicked in, and just John like decided that this guy was like got to go. So John goes back to his old habit and like lures Clinton over to his place for like a
If you leave a stump, will it grow back?
Comes over and he's the only one there, so he's like, oh, I'm the first to arrive, whatever. Like, okay.
Okay, I don't think so either.
So he sits down on the couch in the living room, and he's like making himself comfortable, And while doing so, John just full on sneaks up behind him with like this huge gardening shovel, and just smashed it, smushed it on his head, like, and just went off. Cause he kept going and going. It's like, okay, bro, we get it. Like, stop. He's dead. Like, stop. Chill. It was brutal. And this was John's technically like his first kill. He hadn't killed anyone before, so this was new. It unlocked something in him. Ugh. So he does it. He kills him, and then he loads up Clinton's body into his car, and he takes it to a place like where he knows it most likely won't be found, and that's at lower light. He ends up burying Clinton's body over there and like in a shallow grave in the salt flats.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I am 100% disappointed that part of the tree got blown, but it still looks cool.
And he just had his first kill, okay? He's on a high. He's thinking he just did the world a favor, And this grown-up John isn't just good with men.
And if I really want to,
for some
I'll just like...
bizarre reason, he has like a lot of success in the dating world.
I went the wrong way. There we go. Oh.
I'm telling you, this story could go on forever, okay? Because at some point he was juggling girlfriends,
to find a jungle,
wives,
harvest the wood,
lovers,
rebuild it, but...
all throughout his 20s. I don't know. He had the time, apparently.
Yeah, it's starting to.
So
We still have
I guess
plenty
I'll
of
talk
time.
about the one that like only is the most important. So it's a woman he was with named Elizabeth Harvey. Okay, so like everybody else in this awful story, Elizabeth had a really hard life. Very abusive parents, very alcoholics. Her stepfather had molested her at a really young age, and her adult life, it was not easy either. She had 4 sons by 2 different daddies. Her first husband had abandoned her and her older son, Troy. Her second husband was said to be extremely abusive to both her and her kids.
I spent all that time getting all fancy, and I could have put it sideways anyway.
Said that her husband had like
Oh
her,
my
and
god.
that's how her second son, Jamie,
There's a
was
creeper
conceived.
by the
So,
treehouse. I'm just gonna
yeah.
stay.
So this guy, this awful man,
Right? He
not
just fell
only
down into the mine.
Elizabeth,
I
again,
am
he
going
abused
up
the
in
children,
the
and,
tree
like, really abused them.
before it can see me.
Sexually,
Holy
everything.
crap.
It's just all around awful. Wish I could say something better. Well, the next line is kind of better because, like, luckily he died of a heart attack. Yeah, 1986, like this awful
dude.
human being, he had died of a heart
Oh
attack.
my god.
49 years old.
Please, no more creepers.
Removed from the situation. I mean, it didn't solve all of, like, her problems, you know? But it was a step. You know, after
I figure we
that
probably end at
happened,
midnight,
of
right?
course,
Your midnight, your time?
Elizabeth spirals. She's got all these kids to take care of. She ends up, though,
So we got,
like
like,
remarrying pretty
5-6
quick.
minutes.
And she remarries someone who has 2 young stepsons in addition to her sons. So it's a lot. And she can't handle it. She's taking, like, pills, you know. She's not doing well. And she's just in a really, really deep depression. So, and this is, like, the year 1993. So one of her neighbors had noticed that, like, she wasn't doing well. And his name was Jeffrey Payne. And he's noticing that, like, you know, she really seems to be struggling and she's not doing well. So he goes up to her and he offers to help her out with the kids. And you're like, oh my god, finally, like, someone nice is helping her out. But I'm telling you, you can't win in this story. You cannot win in this story. Because Jeffrey is a real predator. Yes! I don't believe she knows that he is, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, not yet, at least. Anyways, but, like, one of his favorites to pay attention to, like, the favorite sons of Elizabeth was her son, Jamie. So, sadly, Jeffrey would have, you know, 14-year-old Jamie come over to his house and just do very inappropriate things with him. Lots of, like, you know, grooming, watching porn together, and then it evolved and it got really aggressive. And then it turned into Jeffrey starting to, like, threaten Jamie, saying, like, if you don't let
that
me
made my chest
what
hurt.
I want to do with your body, then I'm
The
gonna
thing
go
that she
after
just
your
said,
body.
I'm like,
And,
oh my
he was
god.
old enough to know, like, he didn't want his
Like,
brothers
puts
to go
perspective
through
on
it.
my childhood.
So he goes along with it in hopes to protect his brothers. Which is, like,
That's
so sad.
frustrating. I'm
Right?
gonna hit my pen
So Jamie,
and be happy that I am an
terrified of
adult,
this guy,
that
and he
I
just
am
goes along with Jeffrey
37
involved.
and not
It
7.
escalates just into some really intense stuff. Okay, that's really all we need
And
to
know
know.
that
So
my
after some time passes and, like,
6-year-old,
Jeffrey really
and when
gets
she
his way
eventually
with
is
them,
7,
he tells Jamie,
will
like,
never
if
experience
you ever
anything
talk
like what
about
I
this,
did.
I'll kill your mother. So this really
And that's a beautiful thing to think of. Okay,
terrifies
yeah, Amber,
Jamie.
you did that right.
Never really talks
Girl,
about
I'm
it.
proud
Now,
of
at
you.
this point, Jamie's life really started to go, like, off the rails. He's skipping school. He's falling into depression. He starts drinking. He's getting into drugs. He ended up getting into heroin, which would end up, like, becoming a serious addiction all the way up into his adulthood. And everyone around him said that he developed some weird tics. Like, he would shower obsessively and, like, scrub his skin to get off just that feeling of being dirty. So this guy is just, he's not okay, right? So this is when Vanessa steps in. Yeah, Vanessa. She comes out of nowhere, and she knows about this Jeffrey guy, and she knows that, like, he is abusive. So she finds out that this Jeffrey
Yeah,
guy is
ooh, the
Jamie,
treehouse is...
the kid.
I'm still disappointed
So
about that
she
one
ends
bit,
up
but
coming forward and telling Jamie's mom, Elizabeth,
I
that this was
think
happening. Now, Elizabeth was
I'm gonna
absolutely
put glass
devastated.
flooring.
Like, she
Is
lost
gonna be
it. Now, when Vanessa,
dope.
like, is finding all of this out about Jeffrey, coincidentally, John is there and finds out
Oops,
about
that is not what I wanted
what's
to do.
going on. John, remember, absolutely hates pedophiles, hates all this stuff, so he's fucking raging. As he should, though. Jeffrey was a piece of shit, you know? Like, okay, this is the part that doesn't make sense, because I was like, okay, so John is gonna rage on this guy, right? Just absolutely rage. But John instead goes over to Elizabeth's house to talk to her, and tells Elizabeth to stay away from Vanessa. Because she was just as bad as that Jeffrey guy. Yeah, I don't know what, that's what, I was like,
The
oh,
fuck
we
was
just gonna
that?
chop that guy's head off? Jeffrey.
I don't know what that was, but it was in my headset, so it was clearly in the game.
Not that this
Oh
should
my
happen,
god,
I'm
what the
just
fuck
surprised.
was that?
I feel like that would be the
Oh.
guy. John, that would be the guy. So in fact, Vanessa's like a hub in an infamous
weird
pedophile
sound.
ring in Adelaide that was at its peak during the 70s and the 80s. This story, I'm telling you, it's like what? It
Made
just
my heart
uncovers
stop.
so much. So she's part of like this
Oh, fuck, you scared
pedophile
me.
ring, okay? And the 70s and
Yeah, I was
80s,
standing
it
right
was-
here,
It was doing just fine.
face this
And
way,
was
and I
called
heard it in my
the
left
family.
ear. So it came from somewhere over this way.
Remember when you were a
But
kid
I don't know
and
what it
you had to
was.
see one doctor? It's like this
Hey,
pediatrician for the
fucking
whole
shit.
life.
I love you.
You go to them for everything, and they
Thank
give
you.
you a sticker and like a lollipop or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh,
and then
yes.
suddenly you're
So now when I find some jungle leaves, I can repair that. But yeah, so this little area right here, I'm gonna turn it into
Thankfully, the choosing part
an open
is
floor.
super
Ooh,
easy.
you know what? I'm gonna make it a
You
heart
use
shape.
ZocDoc.
Yeah.
ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare
That's gonna be the last
high-quality
thing I do. I just have to
in-network
put
doctors.
some
Choose the
sand
right
into
one
a
for your
smelter
needs, and click
or
to instantly
into a,
book an
you know what I
appointment.
meant.
I'm talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and so much more. There's a doctor for everything.
What do I look
ZocDoc's
like?
filters let me search for doctors that are close by, take my
God
insurance,
damn
and
it.
who come highly rated by actual
Whatever.
like, real
I
patients.
guess I'm never
And I
gonna
can
be
even use
Susan
it to see a
Strong.
doctor's availability and like book my appointment instantly. And
That's
with
so
ZocDoc,
lame.
appointments happen pretty damn fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. And sometimes you can even score same day appointments. Wow.
Yeah, and
So
you could
stop
see me.
putting
I
off
was the
those
creepy
doctor's
no-face
appointments
tree.
and go to ZocDoc.com/makeup.
So, yeah.
Find and instantly book
I don't,
the top-rated doctor
I do
today.
not know.
That's ZocDoc.
Alright, let me go into my
ZocDoc.com/makeup.
boobala, get my sand, little 7 pieces that I have.
It was like this
Smelt
ring
it.
of these people,
Oh shit, I had
who
food in
organized
here that
themselves
I
well enough to, like,
totally
kidnap,
forgot about.
traffic, and rape teenage boys. In
There you go.
Australia at this
Hell yeah.
time, foster care only went as
Hey,
far
what's up,
as the
bro?
age of
I like your
14,
hat.
which would leave like a lot of teenagers
Hey, Minwee.
at such a young age, and then these people would seek them out, get them. It was not great, and Vanessa was a part of this. This ring was involved with some nasty things.
Plug in a Hyundai EV and the extraordinary happens. It's not just the ultra-fast charging capability and long range in the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, or
making
the adventure-seeking
some
spirit
glass.
of the Kona Electric, or the groundbreaking 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N. And it's not just the comfort in knowing that every Hyundai EV is backed by a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited electric battery warranty. Hyundai's EVs transform a low hum into a loud adventure. They bring color to your journey and turn energy into main character energy. So forget everything you thought you knew about EVs and
Okay.
turn the extraordinary into something truly.
Yeah, I'm inside the smelter.
Estimated 3 to 3 mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5 SE.
Yeah.
Limited rear-wheel drive and 361 mile driving
Okay,
range for
yeah.
2024 Ioniq
I'm like, but that's how the cookie crumbles. Oh yeah, no, you gotta get some rest, boo. I already knew that midnight was when we were gonna stop. I was just like hoping I could get that, glass floor in, but that's what I'll do next time, and it will be perfect. So, hell yeah, this was hella fun. I love being able to game with you always.
Now your kitchen's up in smoke.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right home insurance coverage,
Sleep well.
the cost to fix this
'Kay.
is anything but
Night.
a fantasy. So switch to Allstate, save money, and get protected from mayhem like this. Not available in every state. Terms apply. Savings vary. Allstate Vehicle and Property Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Just like they would auction off
Oh, yeah.
children. Yeah, it was bad. I don't think we need to, but it was bad. Some people estimated that the family was responsible for up to 150 different kidnaps and sexual assaults, and that's just in the 70s and the 80s. So the ringleader of this group was a guy named Bevan, He was arrested in the early 80s, and he ended up being, like, convicted of murdering one of the kids that he had kidnapped and auctioned and all that, you know? He ended up, like, murdering one of them. So Bevan and his group, they also are suspected of, like, 4 other murders, and these are, like, referred to as the family murders, which is a whole nother story in itself, right? There's so many stories, and it's just a lot. But Bevan, he does get caught. This whole thing was exposed, but you know, just because they're caught doesn't mean everything just all goes away. He got arrested, but Vanessa was the one who was like now heavily involved, and she would keep this whole thing running. So that's why John didn't like Vanessa, because he thought that
Alright,
Vanessa
motherfuckers.
was mad.
Thank you for tuning in.
Jeffrey had gone to those
Until
kids
next time, and
before
always,
she did.
be kind to yourself and everyone else.
It's like, what the hell?
Bye.
John starts coming by Elizabeth and Jamie's house pretty often, like riding up on a motorcycle, just always like flashing a